And now to the latest in Venezuela, where the country swore in Delcy Rodriguez as the acting president yesterday, following the U.S. capture of Nicolas Maduro. Rodriguez will have to work with the U.S. government to try and stabilize the country in the next few months as America looks to revitalize its oil industry and bring the economy back. How exactly might they do that? Our next guest has been privy to some of those details and talk in Washington. Joining us now is Michelle Caruso Cabrera, the CEO of MCC Global Enterprises and a CNBC contributor. Michelle, spill the tea, I think is what they say. Welcome.
Hey, Kelly, good to see you. Yeah, we have to see if Delcy Rodriguez will cooperate with the U.S. government. It seems she may be forced to, the way things have been set up, an offer she can't refuse. And speaking to oil executives extensively over the last couple of days, a lot of them think if there is stability on the ground and security on the ground, Venezuela can get to 3.5 million barrels per day, which is what they used to produce, by 2030. That's going to require a lot of investment. And then they say what's very crucial, and which hasn't been widely reported, is that in 2020, this socialist government passed a law called the Anti-Blockade Law. It was to deal with sanctions. And what it does is it allows the executive branch, the president of the country, basically to enter deals and do full privatizations if necessary to protect the economy. It used to be that the Venezuelan government would have to own at least 51% of a project, usually 60%, and now that doesn't have to be the case anymore. So she actually has a lot of leeway to do things if she's willing to do deals with oil companies.
And I guess the president is going to speak with the oil companies and has talked about possibly helping to subsidize them for their efforts down there. So does all of this now speed back up the possible timeline in which Venezuela might get more supply into the market? And, again, you mentioned the issue with now Delcy Rodriguez and to what extent she's cooperating with the U.S. or not in all of this, as she kind of tries to toe the line between saying, what happened was wrong, but also, I guess, behind the scenes flecking at working with the U.S.
That is going to be what she has to do. From the outside, that looks like something very difficult to do, but so far, so good. If you watch Venezuelan state TV, they stream it on YouTube. You can watch it if you want. The government and her government seems very much in control. Often when things go badly in a country, if there's a coup d'etat, a change in leadership, what do? They take over the TV stations. That has not happened here. This government is still in control. They have a march going on today, a women's march, demanding that the U.S. send back Maduro and his wife to Venezuela. But so far, she seems to be in charge. So she's going to have a lot of leeway if she chooses to work with the United States.
What happened with Maria Machado, is it? She spoke and thanked President Trump when she received her Nobel Prize, and then it was pretty clear that the U.S. said, we don't think she has the confidence of the people. And maybe that, to your point about the Women's March, maybe that's factual. And I didn't know if that was simply just there's kind of more to the story, behind the scenes.
That was heartbreaking for the opposition in exile. They certainly had thought this was their moment. Marco Rubio was pressed on that question multiple times over the weekend on the Sunday shows, and he said it's too soon for that. We first have to, look at what's immediately in front of us. The national interests of the United States are the following. But he didn't discount that she could eventually be the leader of the country. And in fact, many Republican members of Congress held a news conference a couple of days saying they still believe she will be the future leader of the country because her ticket, maybe not her herself, but her ticket did win an election. What happened? There's a lot of talk from people close to this administration who believe that what they saw post-Saddam Iraq was problematic, that if you decapitate too much of the leadership of a country, it can fall into instability, disarray. If you do a de-Baathification, Saddam Hussein was a member of the Ba'ath Party, and they got rid of the army, they got rid of all these people who work for the government. It led to a lot of instability in Iraq, and their goal number one was stability. And they weren't sure that would be achieved if she was brought into power right away.